After an epic battle between My Hero Academia's main character Midoriya and the bloodthirsty villain Muscular, I thought the show would have a hard time keeping up its intensity. I'm happy to say I was wrong. A lot of fun concepts got introduced in My Hero's 43rd episode, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. The previous episode was an amazing spectacle, and I had a great time watching it, but it was a bit predictable and very on the nose. A quick recap, the little angry boy Koda was off in his secret hideout as the training grounds were being attacked by the League of Villains Vanguard Action Squad. A villain happens to find Koda in his secret hideout, and the villain that finds him is coincidentally the same guy that kills his parents, and Midoriya rushes to his aid and eventually saves him. All of those events served the very specific purpose of rushing the development of Koda, making him come around to the fact that heroes are not that bad. It all felt very contrived, but that doesn't change the fact that the episode did make me cry a little bit, and overall it was very well executed, so I'm not mad at any of the events that happened, even though it feels like the development was a bit forced. As we move into episode 43, the script is getting flipped completely. There is absolutely no predictability going in. In fact, I thought a couple of characters were going to die, so the intensity was kept, even though there wasn't this crazy struggle between Midoriya and a villain that seemed like he was basically unstoppable. You know, it's interesting that you can go from one episode, the main character, he's crying out for his mother, he's crying out for his hero All Might as he's being crushed beneath the strength of a villain, to the next episode, we're focusing a lot on the B characters, the side characters, but there's still the same level of intensity because maybe the stakes are higher for them because they're not the main characters, and it wouldn't be completely insane for them to get killed, right? Because if we kill Midoriya, the show's over, but if we kill one of the side characters, that just brings up more interesting conflicts and things that we can discuss about what it means to be a hero, sacrifices, and all that good stuff. I don't think My Hero Academia is necessarily going to go down the Game of Thrones route where they just start killing people left and right, but it would be an interesting turn of events. So, for this episode, we got the development with Koda. He's coming around to the fact that heroes aren't bad people, and he wants to apologize to Midoriya for punching him in the nuts, but he also wants to thank him for saving his life. There were also some really nice visuals in this episode as well. We're making some callbacks to the previous episodes where Midoriya was talking with Koda, but there was no real connection between them. We see Midoriya standing by himself, looking at Koda, Koda not making eye contact with him at all, just looking off into the distance. And then you follow that up with episode 43, Midoriya is kneeling down, Koda is looking him square in his eyes with a certain amount of reverence and appreciation for what he's done, and maybe even a better appreciation for other heroes. We also got a bit of development for Midoriya, or better yet, we came into the realization that he is neither in his physical, mental, or emotional prime. And this is a recurring theme with the show overall, is that Midoriya has a lot of work to do. And when he was confronted by Eraserhead, his teacher, it became even more apparent. Everything sort of ground to a halt when these two characters saw each other face to face. Midoriya and Eraserhead have always had a, I want to say, maybe bitter relationship, because Eraserhead's job is to be the teacher, the adult in the room that makes sure nobody gets hurt. Meanwhile, Midoriya is breaking his arms and legs whenever he uses his quirk to its maximum capability. So that is a negative reflection on him in a way, and when he comes face to face with Midoriya as his arm is hanging down all black and blue, his eye is jacked up because he got punched in the face, it reflected poorly on Eraserhead as the teacher, as the adult who's supposed to keep these guys safe. So I imagine there's a bit of frustration for his character there, but also he just genuinely doesn't want to see people hurt themselves. He would much rather have Midoriya master his powers so that he doesn't need to explode his arms every time he throws a punch. Eraserhead also sees a certain amount of pride in Midoriya. I think one thing that's interesting about their relationship, despite the fact that Eraserhead is very hard on Midoriya, he wants him to do things the right way, to not injure himself while trying to protect other people, there is a certain level where he looks at him and he says, all right, look, I know you did what you had to do to save this little boy, so I got some more stuff for you to do. You're going to handle this business for me while I'm handling other business. So there's this back and forth play in their relationship where it's not just I'm the adult and I'm mad at you for doing this, but you know, I'm still upset with you, but I realize you did what you had to do in the situation. With that said, there was still room for you to make better decisions. You need to master your powers better, etc., etc. So it's an interesting dynamic between these two characters, and I'm hoping it continues to evolve or grow. It's almost like a Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san kind of thing, and it'll be fun to see how it changes as the series progresses. Next up, we're going to go out of chronological order for this one. The fight scene between three characters whose names are eluding me right now, so I have to stop again to look it up. It was two members of Class B and a villain named Mustard. The two members of Class B are trying to stop this guy. They're rushing in, but Mr. Mustard, he knows he's not that strong. All he can do is make gas, and if you have a gas mask, you've pretty much nullified his entire ability. So he pulls out a little bitch-ass 22 caliber pistol, he cocks back the hammer, bang bang. And as I'm watching the episode, I genuinely thought one of the characters was gonna die, but thankfully, he shot at Tetsu Tetsu. His special ability is turning his skin into steel. So he's immune to a certain level of ballistic damage, but the bullets are clearly hurting him. And to make matters worse, Mustard shot for the face. He was not playing any games. He broke the gas mask, so now Tetsu Tetsu has to hold his breath while he tries to fight him. So they go through this big struggle. But this was a very crucial moment for the episode because this is what kept the tension on par with what we saw in the previous episode. If there wasn't this risk of the characters dying, if I didn't genuinely feel in my heart of hearts that that gunshot was going to kill somebody, or if there was potential for something to go wrong, this whole episode would have been a little bit less powerful. It would have, you know, paled in comparison to what we had in the previous week, simply because the stakes weren't as high. So the fact that the writers and the directors and the show creators are able to keep that going is a testament to their abilities. So long story short, they won the battle. They punched Mustard in the face and knocked him out. But he did bring up an interesting point that despite the fact that these heroes are strong, they are humans at the end of the day. So they are vulnerable to something simple like a bitch-ass 22 caliber pistol. So now we move on to the real meat and potatoes of the episode, the clash of ideologies, as I like to call it. The League of Villains are the main antagonists of the show, and they are filled with a bunch of people who think differently about why they are fighting. There are some people that joined because they believed the League of Villains was born from the hero killer Stain's crusade to purge the world of fake heroes. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Crocodile type character is fighting for Stain 100%. He even copied his wardrobe, his weapon choice, everything about the crocodile character is born from the hero killer Stain. Meanwhile, there are other members that just want to fight for the sake of fighting. Muscular, he's just a brute. He wants to kill people. That's it. End of story. Nothing complicated there. But it's interesting to see this sort of infighting going on between the villains. While we're on the subject of Stain, I think he's created an interesting, I don't want to call it a problem, but it's an interesting situation that the show is going to have to deal with as it progresses. I think Stain is the best villain in the show because he's less of a villain and more of an anti-hero. Because if you look very deeply at what his motivations were, they make a little bit of sense. He wanted to purge the world of fake heroes, people that just put on costumes and dress up and go around, you know, saving cats out of trees, but when push comes to shove, they're not willing to do the real hard work. They're not willing to risk their lives. But he is killing to sort of weed out the weak. But, you know, so there's the question that you have to ask yourself, is what he's doing valid? Has the world been oversaturated with fake heroes? Do we need to get rid of those people that are calling themselves heroes but aren't willing to do anything genuinely heroic? And up to this point, none of the other villains have a truly strong motivation. I believe the motivation for the main League of Villains figurehead, the kind of puppet master character, is just because I'm a douchebag evil guy. So comparing him and his motivations to Stain, it's night and day, and Stain is the clear winner in terms of who's the more interesting character. And this is a problem that a lot of superhero movies have had. With the DC cinematic universe, we've got Christopher Nolan's Joker, played by Heath Ledger. That is a phenomenal character, And I don't think the DC movies will ever create a villain as compelling, as fun to watch, as exciting, who also brings up very, very interesting points and says a lot of stuff that makes you go, oh my god, he's kind of right in this very uncomfortable way. To use a more recent reference, the Avengers Infinity War movie had a fantastic villain as well. Thanos. He wanted to dispassionately erase half of the living population in the universe to remove things like starvation, overpopulation, and just give a better quality of life to those who would survive. Now, obviously, every life has a value, but what if there are so many lives that the quality of each life is going down? Is it better to have a society with 1 billion people living hungry or 500 million people with full bellies and 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments? Thanos would think the latter is better. So you look at him and you say, yeah, you're genociding half of the universe, but you're doing it for what you believe is a good reason, and for a reason that can be difficult to argue in some senses. I mean, if you go through rush hour traffic in New York City enough times, you'll think Thanos is correct. That's all I'm saying. But the point here is that the hero killer Stain is on the same level as the Joker and Thanos, in the sense that he has a motivation and he does make some interesting points about the world that the characters live in. But of course, they are going about it in quite possibly not the best way. They're just murdering people to make their ideologies come to fruition, and that's probably not the best thing to do. And I think that just about wraps it up. There was a lot of stuff packed into this episode, but it all got elaborated on very well, and it's moving the plot along very nicely. And as always, I'm looking forward to what comes next. So, with all of that said, the name of the show is My Hero Academia. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know how you felt about the intensity of this episode. When you saw the gun come out, did you think someone was gonna die? Do you believe that Hero Killer Stain is the best villain in My Hero Academia? And do you think it's possible for them to do anything better in terms of the motivation that a villain could have? Is there something higher for them to reach? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.